Good day, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Peter. For those of you that are new here, welcome. Go ahead and hit like, comment, and subscribe. Tap the notification bell so you can know when I'm uploading to the channel. All right, you guys, so the ancestor message for today is death is not the end. Death does not mean the end. Okay? A lot of times when we think of something being dead or something dying off, we think of the end, right? But we don't take into account the things that transpire after death. And so your ancestors and your guides want you to know that just because things die in this plane or in our lives doesn't mean that it is the end, okay? There are so many different types of experiences as it relates to death. But when something dies, it doesn't reach its end. It reaches a point where it evolves or it transcends into something else, or transcend or ascends to another dimension or another plane of existence, but it does not die. When something of you dies in the spiritual, something new is resurrected, like something new is resurrected, something new comes into being. And so like when old habits die, then new habits take its place. Or when old things that used to bother you die, then new feelings come about. But death does not mean that it no longer exists. It just no longer exists for you. Okay? And so death also is the evolution. It is the evolving of something. And so when the ancestors die, they ascend somewhere. Or when someone dies and they ascend, but they're not dead. They're living out an eternal life somewhere in some other existence, like some other dimension. And their dimension that they enter into is determined by their level of awareness or their frequency when they leave this plane, okay? And those that don't practice certain things on this side tend to cross over into the other side and be stuck in between worlds or in between parallels, or stuck wondering because they never experienced anything outside of the body. And so what your guides and your ancestors are wanting you to do, they want you to take time to experience death, but experience it in a way that it assists you in your evolution, okay? That it assists you in your evolution, that you evolve into whatever it is that you were to evolve into, okay? Death is beautiful, it's ceremonial, and it's transformational. Because when you die, or when you witness yourself dying, things within you dying, things on the inside of you dying, things that you thought were going to be there forever, like feelings of depression and all of these things, when you witness those things dying and you come out on the other side, you come out as a new person. You are then born again in that example of death. And so, once you're born again, you have to now learn your new ways, right? You have to now learn your new ways in your new life, right? Because since all of those old bad things have died and you're born again, you have to now learn how to hold your head up again. Stabilize yourself. You have to learn how to balance yourself. For example, for those that went through a crazy divorce or a crazy breakup, or you're used to it being, two of you and now there's only one of you. You have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet again. You have to learn how to walk again. You have to get your equilibrium, right? And once you learn your posture, then you begin to speak and you learn a new language, because the language in which you used to speak is not the same language that you talk in now. Because remember, there was a death that occurred and a resurrection that followed. And now that you have been born again, you have to go through the process of birthing, being birthed, and then go through the infancy stages, and then now go through different stages of development. Now you're going through the different stages of development. So after you learn to speak, you learn now your proper motor skills. You begin to pick up on different sensories, because now you have, tapped into your empathic abilities, or whatever your gifts are, whatever your divine gifts are. You have tapped into your psychic abilities, and so now you're learning these different sensors. And so you now are a new creature, a new being, right? And so death is not always a bad thing. But in the midst of death, in the midst of dying, there's grief, there's pain, there's a grieving process. And you endure that grief for however long it takes you to endure. And this is in a physical death. When you're mourning the loss of someone, or when you're going through that pain, where you're mourning the loss of your old self, you are grieving at that point. And then after you're done with the grieving process, then you are now in a position to begin to go through all of those different stages of development that we spoke of again. And every time you evolve into a newer self, your old self dies again. And it's not that you forget any of the old selves. They just don't affect you in your current, in your newness. And you don't forget it all. Even in the physical realm, when you come back into this plane of existence, when the universe recreates you, right? When you come back here, you don't forget everything. You forget a lot of it, and then you have like epiphanies and things like that, where you begin to remember. The same like when you die in your transformation, you begin to remember little small parts of your old self, but they don't determine your current self. You just remember them, and you say, oh man, in my past life, I went through this. Same in your past lives before this current life, what you endured. So death is not a means to an end. Death is everlasting life. And so now you have gone through your spiritual death, and you have endured your grief. You have gone through your grieving process, or your process of mourning. And you are now beginning to stabilize yourself and get acclimated and familiar with your new way and your new foundation and your new sensories and senses and your new clairs. And now it's time for you to take those new skills and sensories and sensors and developmental cues and apply them to your current self to help you navigate now this life. Okay? So you have died and resurrected and been born again. You have endured several storms. You have gone through several grieving processes. You have mourned the loss of your old self. You have experienced several different epiphanies of your past life. And now it's time for you to now do it again. And this is a preparation for yet another ascension that's going to come. Because you guys aren't done yet. And that's what your ancestors are preparing you for. Even the evolution of yourselves now. Listening to me, you're like, oh, what is she talking about? But you understand what I'm saying. Because you have evolved. And now I'm talking in your language. And now we have our own language in which we communicate, in which I share your ancestral wisdom to you. But we're all now within the same soul family, or soul unisons. And so now you have to figure out how to navigate and apply these things. And so it is very important for you now to live in your truths of your new self. Because living within your truth, or living with integrity, having integrity to yourself, or being truthful to yourself, will prevent you from experiencing more death so soon. Because you don't want to continue to force yourself to exist in a plane or exist in a world that you've already died in. The atmosphere may not support you. There might not be enough substance in that life for you, where since you've evolved to this life and you're now getting adjusted to this life provides you with enough substance and nourishment and things that you need to continue to journey on this life. And trying to exist in your old world could change everything that's being planned for you at this very moment. But you guys are living out this new you, and you are about to experience a world that you didn't know that you was going to experience, but you had to die in order to experience this. Just like people have to die to experience their heaven, their Ori, their everlasting life, their next dimension. People have to die to experience that. And out of all of the mythologies and all of the animism and all of the different fables, they all say that when you experience your heaven, your Ori, or whatever it's called, depending on your cultural beliefs or your spiritual practices, they all say that it's magnificent, like it's way better than anything that they could have ever imagined. And so now it's time for you, now that you've been resurrected, to create your heaven, your Ori, right here in this reality that you exist in. Because the past no longer exists. The past that did exist only exists now. We no longer view the past how we saw the past. We view the past how we see it now. And the past then was painful. It was agonizing. It was depressing. It was full of defeat. It was full of being mistreated. It was full of all of these different emotions that you probably can't even begin to identify with. Like, you could comprehend it, but you could no longer identify with it. Like, it no longer puts you in that mood, and it's because of where you are now. So your now determines that past, and your past is no longer relevant, and it does not exist. The only thing that exists is now. And so now, you have been born again. Your guides and your ancestors are wanting you to be impeccable with your words. If you don't know where that come from, the 4 agreements. But they're wanting you to be impeccable with your words from here on out. Because now you are living a brand new life. And this new life and how you feel within this life will be determined by the things you say and the choices that you make from here on. Okay? Because you are in this new level of awareness, you guys. You're in this newness. You're in this new energy. You're in the now. Okay? Your life is going to change from this point on. Your life is going to be different from this point on. All right? So, rest in peace, old self. Rest in peace, old self. Tell your old self to rest in peace. Because your new self is here now. Okay? So that's pretty much it, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this message. I hope this message resonated with you guys. This message came to me and they was like, hey, you need to go ahead and go record this message right now. And I'm like, right now? I don't get my son and birds. They was like, nah. You're gonna get it out when you gotta get it out. And it don't matter what you're doing. Because I was really in the middle of doing something, y'all. And they was like, you're gonna get it out right now. Okay? So that's pretty much it, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this message. And I will holler at y'all.